not, emphatically not, the same thing as literature in English. It's a very important distinction. Any school or college curriculum in North America or Australasia will demonstrate the falsity of that idea. Is American literature English literature written and published in the United States? No, it's not. You could start another Boston Tea Party with that proposition. Now, in 2005, the BBC programme Today held a poll to establish who was the greatest Briton who'd ever walked our green and pleasant land. Now, the Today programme has an audience of 2 million. In fact, I sometimes appear on the programme, and it's a wonderful feeling. You are addressing the nation. Now, the result of that poll, Great Britain's Great Briton, the shortlist included such giants, such obvious giants as Winston Churchill, Good Queen Bess, the Lady with the Lamp, Florence Nightingale. But the outright winner, clear outright winner, was William Shakespeare. As it emerged in the post-result analysis, the Swan of Avon, we call Shakespeare, was voted for by Today's millions of listeners, not merely because of his literary genius, but because it was felt by these voters that he embodied what one might call the soul of Britain. Or, as Shakespeare himself put it in an immortal quotation that's much repeated, this precious stone set in the silver sea, this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England. Now, is it any wonder that the author of those inspiring words should be considered the greatest ever Englishman? Now, linguists like to say that a language is a dialect with an army behind it. And one might adapt that quip by defining literature as writing with a national state behind it. And more importantly, the literature is embedded in the nation as the heart is embedded in the body. Now, in the wide-ranging remarks which follow over the lectures which I'm going to give, as I follow the millennium-long track of English literature from Beowulf to Virginia Woolf and beyond, it is not merely words on the page that we shall be considering, and I stress enjoying. It is, in a very real sense, the United Kingdom, as we now call it, in its most revealing aspect, its inner self, its soul. Now, I want to switch ground quite radically by going back 2,000 years to classical Greece. In the Poetics, Aristotle makes the grandest of claims for literature. Aristotle is our first great literary critic, possibly our first great philosopher. Literature, the Athenian philosopher asserted, 2,000 years, as I say, before Shakespeare put quill to paper, literature, Aristotle said, is truer than history. Why is it truer than history? Because history, the chronicle of what actually happened, is shackled to the accidental and incidental. It has to record what really happened. Literature, and Aristotle was thinking particularly of Sophoclean tragedy, could penetrate to the heart of the human condition. It could generalize. It could extract the truth. Now, I want to look at the first milestones on the long, winding path of English literature. Principally, I'll be looking at the Anglo-Saxon epic Beowulf. But before doing so, I must point to another paradox, something which vexed another great philosopher, Karl Marx. How was it, Marx wondered, that a society as primitive as Periclean Athens could produce literature as sophisticated as Oedipus Rex, which, as Aristotle thought, was the greatest work of literature ever produced, and we might well agree with that. Marx offered, by way of explanation, his law of uneven development. Primitive, pre-industrial communities can produce perfect works of art, as perfect as anything we can do. Now, in my experience, everyone coming to Beowulf, that dragon standing at the mouth of English literature, has the same reaction: wonder. Wonder that such complex, and in its own terms, a perfect work of literary art could be produced by a tribal community with none of the things that we consider essential to a modern functioning society. It was primitive. Now, there was, as I've said, an English literature before there was an England. But most of that literature, alas, is forever lost. We'll never know what it was. Only fragments have survived. Now, some aspects of the sociology